Hello gamers, welcome to the Minecraft Copper Age drop 1.21.7. No, yeah, 7. I think it's 7. Anyway, welcome. This is the new update review. How do you like my build? I'm very proud of it. It took a while. Okay, that was a lie. It didn't take too long. It took like maybe a day at most, but I'm still pretty proud of it. I think I did a good. I think it's one of my more like favorite props for like an update review. But anyway, we're not here to talk about that. We're here to discuss about the new stuff in the Copper Age. Can you guess what's in the Copper Age update? That's right. It's iron! Anyway, we're gonna go over these stuff. I have put them all into different sections that are somewhat understandable, I think, in my opinion. And we're gonna go over them. Okay, we're gonna start off with probably the most exciting feature, which is the Copper Golem. Yes, the Minecraft Mob Vote 2021 was not fake news. We got the Golem, and I'm very happy. I'm very satisfied. I think it's better than the stupid, dumb, idiot, baby, stupid, idiot, baby, dumb, allay, baby, dumb, idiot. And yeah, we're gonna go over them real quick. Now, as you may notice, they come in a few different varieties, which is the basic, normal copper golem, the exposed copper golem, the exposed copper golem, the weathered copper golem, and then the oxidized copper golem. And all of these also have honeycomb waxed variants. By the way, everything that's copper in this drop has like 8 variants, so if you ever go into the inventory and you scroll down to the copper section, it is a lot bigger because there's a lot more random stuff in here. Now, if you actually want to make a copper golem, what you will need is a block of copper. It can be waxed or unwaxed, but it has to specifically be just a block of copper. It cannot be like your cut copper, can't be chiseled copper, can't be your copper grates. Ugh, what kind of golem would that look like? A lot of holes in it. Ugh, I don't want to think about that. Anyway, so you'll need a block of copper and then a carved pumpkin. It's pretty much just like any other golem. But when you make it, you will get both the copper golem and a corresponding copper chest. And also, the variant of the golem can actually change. So if I use an oxidized block of copper, I will get an oxidized golem with an oxidized copper chest. You can also wax these, like pre-wax them to just like have them not age, because they do age, and I thought I should probably point that out. Now let's actually talk about its functionality. First of all, this requires the usage of the actual copper chest, which is why every copper golem is going to come with a copper chest. So what they do is, as you can see, every now and then they'll be looking through your copper chest, and since this copper chest is well, kind of empty, it's not going to really do anything. But let's say I have an item inside the copper chest. They're gonna look through it, gonna find the item, and they'll take up to 16 of that item, and then they'll try and find the nearest chest, check if the item is within that chest, and if it is, they'll put it in, and if it's not, they'll move on to a different chest. Now, this chest is already full of items, and none of them are birch planks, so they're gonna look for up to 10 chests before they'll reset their memory and start all over again. Now, if they're unable to find a chest, what you can do is that you can right click them and take the item from their hand, and then they'll go back and search the chest. So it just helps you with helping like sorting items. If they can't find an item, you can build like a different room with copper golems and multiple chest sizes. They can actually check up to chests from 1 block above them. So for example, if I actually put back the birch planks into the copper chest now, someone is going to take it. They're going to go up to the chest, they'll look through the bottom one and see that there's no room. Then they'll look through the top one and see that it's completely empty. So they're going to try and put the birch planks into that chest. There you go. Now, there's a few things I want to note about the actual behavior of this functionality. First of all, it can actually identify different things with different items. So for example, it can actually tell the difference between the color of a bundle and if a bundle has things in it, but it's the same color. So for example, put them in here and we'll have the red bundle, which has been renamed and has items in it. You'll look at the chest, he'll see that there's a red bundle here, and even if it's differently named, it'll be okay because he knows it's a red bundle, so he'll put it in there. However, since this is a purple bundle that this one's carrying, he knows that there's no purple bundles in there, so he will move on and look through different chests. A few other things to note: they can also tell the difference between enchantments. So even if it's enchanted and the pickaxe inside your chest is unenchanted, as long as it's the same type of pickaxe, it will put the pickaxe within the copper chest. Another interesting interaction has to do with things that are already in the chest but are not at the top slot. So for example, this pointed dripstone, he's going to be able to find it within that chest, but where he'll put it is a little bit different from where it actually is. Instead, what the copper golem will do is he'll look through the chest and he'll put it into the nearest slot at the top. So as you can see, even though there's pointed dripstone here, they'll put it at the first empty slot, which is a pretty actually interesting and useful interaction that you can have, because it allows you to kind of put things into like an item sorter to like help sort items. I don't know, just food for thought. One more thing about the copper golems, I don't actually have it because I don't know how to summon it. I don't even think you can summon it like in any way, but there's a cute interaction with a copper golem and an iron golem, where if the iron golem pulls out a poppy to like give baby villagers, for example, it can also give it to the copper golems, and the copper golems can actually accept it and put it on top of its head. I used to have one of these, but this is my second try recording this, so I don't have it anymore. Now, they'll keep it on its head for as long as you want, and if you want to take it off, you can just use shears, and then you'll shear the copper golem and it'll take off the poppy on its head. So that's about it for the copper golem, but I want to quickly go over the copper chest itself. Now, there's 8 variants. There's all the normal variants, all the aging variants, and then there's the whack variants. And if you want to actually build this chest yourself, which you can, there's actually a crafting recipe which just requires a normal chest surrounded by 8 copper ingots. It's relatively simple, but it'll only give you the normal chest. If you want a special chest instantly, the best way to do that is to just make a copper golem of that specific type that you want. But yeah, that's it for the copper golem. We're gonna move on to the next section, which is tools and armor. All right, welcome. This is tools and armor. These are the next tier of Minecraft. This is Minecraft's next tier. I don't know. It's more of a mid tier though. So, for example, here's our copper armor set. This sets between the stone tier and the iron tier, and it's pretty much built like any other normal set that's not like netherite. Basically just your normal recipes with copper ingots instead of like iron ingots, for example. Now I want to show you how much armor points this actually gives you, so let me just quickly put all this on. Give me the boots. And this gives you up to 5 armor points, which is a little bit less than iron, but it's definitely more than, well, stone doesn't really have a tier more than chainmail. I think it's about the same as chainmail, the difference being that it's more accessible and it has, I think, a little bit more durability, which is the upside of the copper set. Actually, a lot of the copper armor tier is just more accessible and has more durability than something like stone. So for people who have like a hard time getting iron and just usually use stone for the most part, this will be very helpful for you. And I've tested it out. It's pretty good. It's pretty good for what it was made for. Anyway, moving on to the actual like tools. We have all of the tools here. We have our sword, our axe, our pickaxe, hoe and shovel, and these are made just like any other tool. Here we go. Look here, there you go. And actually we also have copper horse armor, which is pretty cool. You can't make it just like any other normal horse armor, and it's usually found through structures. Now the specific structures I'm not too sure of, but I can say that it's probably going to be something like the pyramids, desert jungle pyramids, maybe like the nether fortress. I don't know. I haven't actually gone out. I don't know how common these are, but judging by the fact that it's the copper tier, it's probably going to be maybe just as common as iron horse armor. So yeah, and it looks quite pretty, so it's pretty much a good, it's no durability, so like you're never going to lose it unless you like burn it in lava or something. And yeah, that's pretty cool, looks pretty nice too. But yeah, that's it for the copper tool set, which is pretty cool. Does its job well, and I hope you look forward to using it, because it's quite nice, especially like when you're trying to mine for iron. You have at least like a good armor set instead of going in naked usually, because leather is not worth it and chainmail is pretty impossible to get usually. But yeah, let's move on. Alright, this is more miscellaneous stuff. I actually wasn't sure what to put this in, because these features are kind of like all over the place. But we're gonna go over all of these things. We have like the statues here, we have the diary retextures, and we have the shelf block, which is one of the more interesting things in this update, because it's actually not made of copper. Anyway, let's start with the dies. Now here we have the dies. They have a little retexture. It's pretty cool in my opinion. I like it. And yeah, so for example, they all have these like paper holding things now, and they've all been kind of like redesigned just like a little bit, especially like the ones that look exactly the same, you know, like the oval dies. So I think that was like purple, pink, wait, that's pink. What is this? And then I think gray and dark gray were the same. I don't quite remember. I just remember there was 4 types, and that's about it. And overall, they've kind of been softened. They have a much softer texture, and it's basically to help people who have color blindness to have better accessibility with what they're looking at. Now, if I may actually give my personal thoughts on this, I'm just gonna go off on a little bit of a tangent here. I do like the diary textures, but I will admit that the distinguishability of the dies, at least most of them, have gone just a little bit down, because since they're softer, it's actually kind of harder to like see the differences between some of these. Like for example, yellow and white dye, now that they're like less distinguished, it's actually a little bit harder to tell if I were to like grayscale it. The only way I'd probably be able to tell is the fact that yellow dye's like pattern has like a little drop here and then it curves up. Well, this one actually has like a very small drop at the top. But like, yeah, I feel like this would be just a little bit hard to distinguish some of the older ones, which were better distinguishable. I think the new ones are still okay. I think they're pretty good. They did a decent job. But like, the new ones have actually gotten a little worse in terms of being able to tell them apart, just because they softened up and now they kind of look like clumps. Like, these two look kind of similar. And I'm not a colorblind person, so I can tell them apart pretty easily. But like, if we're going just off of shape, some of these are kind of hard to tell the difference between. But I mean, I still like the texture, so I'm not going to complain, but like, this is just a little note. Anyway, moving on. Next, we have the copper golem statues. Now these cannot technically be made, but how you get them is through the oxidization of copper golems themselves. So for example, as copper golems just go by their day, they'll over time start oxidizing. So usually you'll start at this stage, but if you really want to like just get a statue, you're going to want to start at the full oxidization stage, because once they hit that full oxidization stage, they have like a few seconds before they turn into a statue, and that few seconds kind of just allows you to like wax it if you want to keep it in this stage, because as soon as they turn into a statue, you're going to have to undo all oxidization stages before you can bring it back to life. So what do I mean by that? Well, for example, I forgot I was in creative mode. For example, we have a waxed oxidized copper golem here, and if we want to turn it back to life, we're going to have to unoxidize it all the way back to its normal stage, and then unoxidize it one more time to bring it back to life. For example, first is the unwaxing phase, then we unoxidize it to this stage, and as soon as we undo this, it turns back to life. And it'll just go about its day like it wasn't just dead a few minutes ago. And yeah, it's pretty cool functionality. I think it's pretty cool. Now there's actually a few cool things you can actually do with this statue. For example, you can pose it. All you have to do to pose it is look at it and then right click, and then you can kind of alternate through the different poses. There's about 4, I think. There's the normal pose, which is how it'll look when it oxidizes. Then there's the sitting pose, the running pose, and the star pose. Now, actually, if you break it in any of these poses, you can actually get the pose itself. So for example, here's the normal standing one. Here's like the star one. And then here's like a sitting one. And then let's get the last one. And then here's the running one. And yeah, you can get them all 8 variants, waxed, unwaxed, anything you want. It's pretty cool. Now over time, these statues will oxidize, so if you want to keep it into its current state, all you got to do is honeycomb it. But all of these are already waxed, so I can't really do that. And then obviously, if you want to have it oxidized but it's waxed, you just use an axe to unwax it. And I'm actually pretty sure that if lightning strikes it, it'll also unwax it if it's, or no, unoxidize it if it's not waxed, which is pretty cool, probably because it has the lightning rod on its head, which is a little goofy. These are all little goofy guys. I like them a lot. They're pretty cool, they're pretty funny. But yeah, that's it for the statues. Pretty cool feature. And we're gonna move on to the shelf. Now the shelf is quite interesting. First of all, how you make it is you put 3 stripped blocks and 3 stripped slabs. This is probably not the best example because you probably don't know what a stripped bamboo block looks like. So for example, your stripped mangrove, and then the corresponding wood color will create the corresponding shelf. So for example, this is oak shelf, so that's use oak slabs and oak strip logs. Another strip log recipe, I don't really mind those are pretty cool. Strip logs always could do with better uses, and we have a few now. So it's like the hanging sign and the shelf now. So yeah, pretty cool. Now functionality wise, this is actually pretty interesting block. First of all, this is a redstone block, so it will interact with redstone. I don't know like the specifics, like I don't know the comparator strengths, I don't know any of that. I didn't do that much research into this, but I do know its main functionality, which is putting stuff on shelves. Now it can put up to 64, which is basically a full stack, onto a shelf. And all you have to do is right click it, and if you want to take it out, you can also right click it. Now a cool thing you can do with this is you can actually switch things within the specific shelf grid. So for example, say I want to switch out my hoe with this shovel, all I do is right click and then I get the shovel, and then I just want to put this back, I'll put it right here. Now you can actually take from any type of shelf, it doesn't really matter the order. And a cool thing that you can do is actually activate it with redstone. So I have these levers down here. If I flip this, as you can see, the grids, for some reason, they're gone. Now, what does that mean? That means that you will take all 3 items at once. And one thing to note, it will go by right to left. So as you can see, when I put it back, it starts with the copper helmet to the shovel to the hoe. And if I take it back, in theory, it should be from the very end, copper helmet to shovel and then to hoe. There we go. Now you can actually connect these shelves up to 3, so you can actually take a whole inventory and switch places with whatever's in there. So for example here, and this still goes by the right to left rule. So technically the first one now should be the copper axe. And yeah, then here's the whole inventory, and you can just put it back. Pretty cool feature. Usefulness, I think it's pretty useful. I don't know. And that's it for these miscellaneous features. I don't really know where to place these because they were all kind of like a little different. Except for this. This was just like, I put it here because it felt off not having a third thing here, so I just put it here. But anyway, we're going to move on to the last section, which is the new blocks. Alright, welcome to the blocks section. Now, you may notice the giant end portal in the middle, and you may be asking, why is that there, Vil259? And to that, I'm going to say, I'm not going to answer you because we are not talking about that right now. Instead, we're going to be talking about the new blocks. And guess what they're all made of? I bet you can't guess. Before I start off with the new blocks, I gotta talk about a really important thing that pretty much involves almost all of these blocks, which is the copper nugget. Now, the copper nugget works just like an iron nugget, not like a gold nugget. Well, actually, no, just like a gold nugget too, but a little bit different because gold nuggets kind of lack the things both iron and copper nuggets have. But it's made the same way. For example, say I have like a copper ingot. If I put it into a crafting table, I can get up to 9 copper nuggets. And if, say, I don't want my copper nuggets, say I want my copper ingot back, all you have to do is you put it back into the crafting table, 3 by 3, and then you get your copper ingot back. Pretty cool stuff. There's also the smelting ability. You can just smelt the copper armor and the copper tools. For example, like I'm smelting my copper helmet, and that should give me 1 nugget, which is, I mean, it's okay, but like, I mean, That's five iron ingots for singular copper nugget. Which, I mean, I'm pretty sure mobs will now start wearing copper armor, so I guess it's alright, but you know. But yeah, this is a very important item if you're going to be using any of these copper blocks, so just keep that in mind. Alright, next we have to talk about the second important item, because this is used in one of the blocks, the copper torch. Now, as you can see, this is just, it's like a torch with like a mint green color. This is actually just changed recently. If I just posted the original video, this would have been like fully green, and you probably would have been like, oh my gosh, this is fake news. Anyway, if you want to make this, the crafting recipe, I forgot to add. If you want to make this, the crafting recipe is right here. It's similar to a soul torch, where it's like soul sand, then a coal or charcoal, and a torch, but stick. But instead of a soul sand, it's the copper nugget. So if we try it, here we go. Yep, here's the recipe. And now I have like 4 stacks of copper torches. That's pretty cool. These have no differences, unlike the soul torch, to the normal torch, probably because it's just the copper torch. I don't really know. Anyway, moving on, we're actually going to start off with the lightning rod. Now, you may think the lightning rod was already in the game. What is bro talking about? So the new thing with the lightning rod is that there are now new variants of the lightning rod, including waxed variants, just like any other copper block. So now that alongside the normal lightning rod, we also have the exposed lightning rod, the weathered lightning rod, and the oxidized lightning rod. And these will go through their normal stage of oxidation. You can unwax them with an axe, or if they get hit by lightning, as long as they're not waxed, they will go back to a previous oxidation state, which is pretty cool. And I do like that you can wax them to keep them in their state and still get hit by lightning, which is just nice, because some of these are really cool, and I do quite like this one. Next, we have the copper chains. These are made just like this. You have 2 copper nuggets and a copper ingot, and it will give you the normal copper chain. You can also wax these if you need to, and over time they'll oxidize, and just like any other copper block, you can unoxidize it with an axe, wax it with a honeycomb, and yeah, it's pretty cool. I like the colors. I do like the colors a lot. They're really cool. I use them in some of my builds. Okay, they're not in this room, but they're in like the main room. And I think this will add a nice variety, because we only have one color of the chain, which is like a dark blue, but now we have like an orange, we have a brown, we have a green, and we have like a teal color, which are all very nice. Very cool colors. Next, we have the copper bars. Now, these are made with 6 copper ingots in a kind of like basically just like the normal iron bars, which are now renamed to iron bars. I think they were just iron bars previously. What was renamed? The chains. Chains are now renamed to iron chains. I thought I should just let you know. It's not the most interesting thing ever, but it's noteworthy. But anyway, we're not here to talk about chains. We're here to talk about copper bars. Now, just like any other copper, stay with me, folk. There's 8 different variants, and you can unwax any of these stages with a copper axe and wax them with honeycomb. Wow, isn't that just neat? It's almost like every single copper feature does that, except for a select few. Anyway, my thoughts. I really like these bars. I especially like, I think my favorite one here is the exposed copper bars, just because it mixes so well with iron. I mean, it looks like rust. Alright, finally, we have the copper lanterns. These are also a new color of green, just like the torch. But I think they still look pretty cool. Now, the recipe here is completely copper related. It's all the copper nuggets as well as a copper torch to get you the base copper lantern. Again, over time, the copper will age into all of its different stages. It has 8 variants. If you want to unwax it and unoxidize it, you use a axe, and if you want to wax it, you use a honeycomb. Wow, isn't that neat? Isn't that nifty? There's also no like light differences with a normal lantern, just like unlike the soul lantern, and it's just like the torch. Basically, it's just a visual thing, and I think they look pretty cool. I think my favorites from this one are probably the normal copper lantern, and then the waxed, not the waxed is the same as the normal one, the oxidized copper lantern. Now, this change actually belongs in the end, and it's a visual change that many of you may be familiar with if you play Bedrock. So I'm going to go outside and I'm going to wait. Yep, nothing in terms of like generation is different, but there is a visual change in the end, which is pretty significant, and that is if you wait long enough. There we go. you will get an end flash. Now, the end flash for some of you may be familiar because it is within Vibrant Visuals, which is what I think they're trying to do. They're trying to start implementing things from Vibrant Visuals so they can get ready to actually add Vibrant Visuals. Now, on this island, if the dragon isn't dead, you probably aren't going to actually see this because there's like the boss fog and it's just kind of annoying. But in the end wilds, you're going to see this often, and if you didn't see like the subtitle on like my bottom right corner, there's actually a noise that this makes. It's kind of quiet because I have the audio so low. I'm not sure if you were able to hear it. Anyway, so this is actually slightly different from Bedrock's because this only appears in Vibrant Visuals while this is just in the base game, which is, I think the main reason is just being the fact that it's well, we don't have Vibrant Visuals in Java, but we will eventually, so I assume that this will come to Bedrock as well. But yeah, it kind of lights up the sky, everything turns purple for a little bit, and then it kind of disappears. It's a pretty cool ambient change, I think, and overall, it's just a nice change, so I'm not gonna complain. Anyway, we're back. That's it for the copper drop. That's everything I wanted to cover. That's all the things that you probably should know, at least. There are other things in this update, but you don't really need to know about that unless you're like you're into it. Like, it's like the command things, there's like mannequins, NPCs, it's all creator stuff for map makers and all testers and whatnot, but that's not the main gameplay of Minecraft. So I just went over anything that was changed to the gameplay of Minecraft. If you want to know anything else, look up like some other guy's video. I'm not the guy for that. No, I'm not techie. I'm going to give my final thoughts on the update because I'm pretty much done with the review. So this is my own personal review of the update. I like this update. I like this drop. Pretty good one. Definitely do think that it's one of the better drops. Even though we've only had like what, 5, 6 now. Wait, hold on. Let me count Jesus, guys. Yeah, 6. This is our 7th drop. This is a pretty good one. This is a I think it's a bigger one than usual. Definitely feels like a bigger one than usual, if anything. And I think it's just more stuff in it, unlike some of the other ones. But yeah, overall, I do like the changes. Some critiques, obviously, I have the die critique of it being kind of like less distinguishable from each other. This is like the worst one to try and showcase because this is actually different, like completely different from its original. But something like this one, it's like more mushy, less softer, less harder to tell. But that's all. It's not like a huge problem for me, at least, but like it's just something I wanted to note out. Another thing is that there's still actually a few things copper related that are missing, in my opinion. Where's my copper button? I was promised a copper button with the copper golem, and it didn't arrive. So, Mojang, this update is actually a 0 out of 10. You suck. Kill yourself. I didn't mean the last part. But yeah, I think a missed opportunity is to add the copper button. I think it would have been pretty easy, just like the other copper blocks, because like I mean, it would just be a retextured button. I don't know what else you would do with that. But yeah, just a missed opportunity. Nothing too crazy. But other than that, I actually do quite like this update. I think it's, for what it was promised, it's pretty satisfying. Like, I have no complaints. No like real complaints with this update compared to something like a Garden Awakens. Like oh yeah, there wasn't really enough plants for the Pale Garden to feel complete, or like Spring to Life. I do kind of wish they had like different biome sheep variants and like more plants. But, like this one just feels like it's complete for the most part. Like, I don't have any big complaints. They promised copper. They gave me copper. I'm fine. But yeah, that'll be it for the video. I do these quite often, especially thanks to the drop system. I get free videos to make. Yeah, I had to re-edit this because the first edit was bad because my voice wasn't coming through. So I hope the voice came through this time. But if it didn't, that's okay. I'll just change the audio and editing. But anyway, that's it for the video. If you liked it, leave a like and subscribe. I often do snapshot reviews and drop reviews. I have my own little Let's Play series. It's called Vel Ventures. I just want to be quirky like that. I don't know why I named it. I kind of regret it now, but it's pretty cool. I built cool stuff. But yeah, that's it for the video. Leave a like, subscribe. I hope to see you in the next drop update review. And yeah, bye.